I've been a security guard for about 6 years now. I've worked at malls, construction sites, gated communities, you name it. But the job that finally broke me, the one that made me realize I wasn't built for this kind of stress, was a 6-month stint at a general hospital in Ohio. Now, everyone says hospitals are haunted. I'm a skeptic. I don't believe in ghosts or demons. I believe in crazy people and drug addicts trying to steal medication. That was my job. Stop living people from doing stupid things. But what happened on that Tuesday night in November, I still don't have a logical explanation for it. I was stationed at the reception desk of the East Wing. This wing was mostly administrative offices and a few outpatient recovery rooms that were empty at night. It was essentially a ghost town from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. My only company was the hum of the vending machine and the wall of CCTV monitors in front of me. It was around 2:45 a.m. I was fighting the urge to fall asleep, scrolling through my phone, occasionally glancing up at the cameras. Camera 4 covered the long hallway leading to the basement archives. Camera 5 showed the rear exit. Camera 6 showed the waiting area of the old pediatric unit, which was currently under renovation. It was sealed off with plastic sheets and caution tape. I was taking a sip of my lukewarm coffee when movement on camera 6 caught my eye. The screen was grainy. Typical low-light black and white footage, but I could clearly see the plastic sheeting that separated the renovation zone from the hallway rippling. Not like a draft from the air conditioning, but like someone had just pushed through it. I sat up straighter, staring at the monitor. Nothing. Just the static image of the dark hallway. I figured maybe a construction worker had left something behind, or maybe a rat was running around. But protocol is protocol. I grabbed my flashlight and my radio and headed towards the pediatric unit. The hospital is terrifyingly quiet at night. Your footsteps echo so loud it sounds like someone is walking right behind you. I reached the plastic barrier. It was taped shut. If someone had passed through here, they would have had to peel the tape back. I shone my flashlight on the adhesive. It looked undisturbed. "Hello, security," I called out. My voice just bounced off the linoleum floors. I was about to turn back, feeling stupid, when I heard a sound from the other side of the plastic. A squeak, like the wheel of a gurney needing oil. Squeak, squeak, squeak. It was rhythmic, and it was getting closer. I unclipped the radio from my belt. "Dispatch, this is Mike in East Wing. I've got noise in the renovation zone. Investigating now." I peeled back the tape and stepped into the construction zone. The air smelled of drywall dust and old copper pipes. It was pitch black, the overhead lights having been disconnected for the work. I swept my flashlight beam across the room. Piles of drywall, buckets of paint, a few ladders. And in the middle of the hallway, facing away from me, stood a person. They were wearing a hospital gown, the kind that ties in the back. Their feet were bare on the dirty, dust-covered concrete. They were standing perfectly still, facing a dead-end wall. "Excuse me," I said, my voice shaking a little. "You can't be back here. This area is closed off." The person didn't move, didn't flinch. They didn't even seem to be breathing. Their skin, in the harsh LED light of my flashlight, looked gray, almost translucent. I took a step closer, my hand resting on my baton. Not that I wanted to use it on a patient. "Sir? Ma'am? Do you need help getting back to your room?" The sound started again. That squeaking. But the person wasn't moving. It wasn't a gurney. The sound was coming from them. It was coming from their throat. It sounded like a dry, mechanical wheeze. Squeak, squeak. Suddenly, the figure's head snapped to the right. Not a slow turn, a violent, instantaneous jerk. And then they started to turn around. When I saw the face, my blood ran cold. It wasn't a patient. It wasn't right. The eyes were too wide, unblinking, staring not at me, but through me. The mouth was hanging open in an unnatural way, like the jaw was unhinged, and they were smiling. A wide, impossible smile that stretched too far across their face. "I need to leave," the figure whispered. The voice sounded like two pieces of sandpaper rubbing together. "Okay," I said, backing up slowly. "Let's get you to the front desk." The figure took a step toward me, then another, but the movement was jerky, wrong, like a puppet being pulled by strings. They lunged. I didn't try to be a hero. I turned and ran. I burst through the plastic sheeting and sprinted down the hallway back to my desk. I could hear heavy, slapping footsteps behind me, bare feet hitting the tile hard. I vaulted over the reception desk and slammed my hand on the panic button that alerts the local police and locks down the wing. I looked at the monitors. Camera 6, the hallway I had just run from. It was empty. I scanned every single monitor, the hallway, the renovation zone, the exit. There was no one. The motion sensors hadn't tripped. When the police arrived 10 minutes later, we swept the entire wing. We found footprints in the dust in the renovation zone, my boot prints. But there were no bare footprints, not a single one. I reviewed the CCTV footage with the officers. You can see me on the video walking to the plastic sheet. You see me talking to the empty air. You see me back away terrified. You see me run. But you never see the person in the gown. I quit the next morning. I don't know what I saw in that construction zone, but I know the look in those eyes wasn't human, and I know that wheezing sound. I still hear it when my house is too quiet at night. This happened about 3 years ago when I was working at a gas station off a lonely stretch of highway in Arizona. It was one of those places that's miles from the nearest town, essentially an oasis of light in a desert of absolute darkness. I actually liked the job at first. It was easy. I'd listen to podcasts, restock the shelves, and ring up the occasional trucker or road tripper. The isolation felt peaceful, until the phone calls started. The gas station phone rarely rang at night. Usually, it was just my boss calling to check in or a wrong number. But this one night, around 3 a.m., the phone rang. I picked it up. "Shell station, this is Dan." Silence. Just dead silence on the other end. But not the silence of a disconnected line. I could hear the faint, staticky sound of someone breathing. "Hello?" I asked. A voice, low and distorted, like someone trying to mask their natural tone, whispered, "Blue looks good on you, Danny." I froze. I was wearing my blue work uniform shirt. My name tag said Dan, but nobody ever called me Danny except my mom. "Who is this?" I asked, looking around the empty store. Through the glass windows, all I could see was the gas pumps bathed in fluorescent light and the black void of the desert beyond. "Don't worry about who it is," the voice rasped. Just worry about the back door." Click. They hung up. My heart was pounding in my throat. I immediately ran to the back room and checked the heavy steel door that led to the alley where the dumpsters were. It was locked tight. I checked the front doors. Locked. The windows. Intact. I told myself it was a prank. Probably some teenagers messing with the lonely gas station clerk. I tried to go back to restocking the cigarettes behind the counter, but my hands were shaking. 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. I stared at it. I didn't want to answer, but what if it was an emergency? What if it was my boss? I picked it up and didn't say anything. "You missed a spot," the voice giggled. "On the counter, by the register." I looked down. There was a small coffee stain near the register I had just wiped down. I had missed it. This person wasn't just pranking me. They were watching me. Right now. I dropped the phone on the receiver. I grabbed the store's baseball bat we kept under the counter and ran to the middle of the store. I scanned the parking lot. There were no cars. No one at the pumps. The desert is flat. There are no trees to hide behind nearby. Where were they? Are they using binoculars? Is there a hidden camera in here? I felt like a rat in a cage. I was exposed, bright lights shining on me while they were safe in the dark. Then, the motion sensor at the front door dinged. Ding dong. I spun around, bat raised. A man walked in. He looked normal. Just a guy in a denim jacket and jeans, looking tired. He walked straight to the coffee station, poured himself a cup, and approached the counter. I tried to act normal. I put the bat down but kept it within reach. "Just the coffee?" I asked, my voice cracking. The man looked at me. His eyes were intense, dark. He didn't blink much. He pulled a few crumpled dollar bills out of his pocket and placed them on the counter. "Just the coffee," he said. His voice was deep, but it didn't sound like the voice on the phone. I rang him up. As the register drawer opened, the phone rang again. I flinched. The man looked at the ringing phone, then back at me. He smiled. A slow, creeping smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Aren't you going to answer that, Danny?" he asked. I stopped breathing. I hadn't realized I was wearing my name tag, but he called me Danny. The name tag says Dan. "Who are you?" I whispered, gripping the bat under the counter. The phone kept ringing. Ring, ring, ring. The man leaned forward over the counter. He smelled like gasoline and old sweat. "I'm just a customer," he said softly, "but you really should check the back door." Then he turned around and walked out. I watched him go. He didn't get into a car. He just walked out into the darkness of the desert and vanished. The phone was still ringing. I picked it up, trembling. "He's gone now," the voice on the phone whispered. It was the same voice as before, but I'm still here. I hung up and locked myself in the manager's office until the sun came up and the morning shift arrived. I called the police, and they traced the call. It came from a burner phone. They searched the perimeter. Here's the part that haunts me. They found footprints in the dust outside the back window, the window that looks directly at the register. Someone had been standing there watching me the entire time. But the footprints, they led away from the window and stopped, right where the denim jacket man had walked out. There were two sets of footprints, one standing by the window and one walking away. They were working together. I never went back to that gas station. This happened about 6 months ago. I took a job as a night watchman for a logistics warehouse in an industrial park. It was a massive facility, about 300,000 square feet of towering shelves, conveyor belts, and shadows. My job was simple: do a perimeter check once an hour, monitor the CCTV feeds, and make sure nobody broke in to steal electronics. The warehouse was fully automated during the day, but at night it was just me and the silence, the kind of silence that rings in your ears. It was around 3 a.m., the witching hour. I was sitting in the security booth, watching the wall of screens. Most of the cameras just showed static aisles of boxes. But then, a motion sensor light triggered in Sector D, the furthest corner of the warehouse. I looked at the monitor for Sector D. Nothing, just shelves. Sometimes rats or large moths trigger the sensors, so I wasn't too worried, but I had to check it out. I grabbed my flashlight and began the long walk to Sector D. The warehouse creates its own atmosphere. It gets colder the deeper you go. The echoes of your own footsteps sound like they're coming from different directions. As I got closer to Sector D, I heard something, a whistling. It was a tune I didn't recognize, a slow, mournful melody. Hoo, hoo, hoo. I stopped walking. Hello, security, I shouted. The whistling stopped immediately. The silence rushed back in, heavier than before. I raised my flashlight, sweeping the beam across the high racking. The shelves went up about 30 feet, plenty of places to hide. I continued walking, slower now, trying to step quietly. I reached the aisle where the sensor had tripped. On the floor, nestled between two pallets of microwaves, I saw something that made my stomach drop. It was a sleeping bag, and scattered around it were food wrappers, empty water bottles, and pictures, Polaroids. I knelt down to look at the pictures. They were photos of the warehouse, photos of the staff working during the day, and photos of me. Photos of me walking to my car. Photos of me sitting in the security booth. Photos of me entering the building. Someone wasn't just breaking in. Someone was living here, and they were studying me. Suddenly, the whistling started again, but this time, it wasn't coming from the ground level. It was coming from directly above me. I shined my flashlight straight up into the rafters. Crouched on top of the highest shelf, 30 feet in the air, was a man. He was skinny, almost skeletal, with long, matted hair. He was perched there like a gargoyle, staring down at me with eyes that reflected the light like a cat's. He wasn't holding a weapon. He was holding a camera. As soon as the light hit him, he didn't scream or run. He just brought the camera up to his face and took a picture. Flash. The sudden burst of light blinded me for a second. When my vision cleared, he was moving, but not like a person climbs down a ladder. He was leaping from rack to rack, traversing the high steel beams with horrifying agility. He was moving toward the front of the warehouse, toward the only exit. I realized with a jolt of panic that he was trying to cut me off. I sprinted. I have never run so fast in my life. I could hear him above me, the clang of metal as he landed on the beams, the sound of his breathing echoing in the vast space. He was laughing now, a high-pitched, manic cackle that bounced off the metal walls. I made it to the main corridor. I could see the exit door about 100 yards away. The clanging above me stopped. I risked a glance backward. He had dropped down to the floor. He was on all fours, galloping toward me like a wild animal. He was fast, unnaturally fast. I fumbled for my keys as I hit the door bar. I burst out into the cool night air and slammed the heavy metal door shut behind me. I could hear his body slam into the other side of the door a split second later. Thud! Then, the whistling started again from the other side of the door. The same slow, sad tune. I ran to my car, locked the doors, and sped out of the industrial park. I called the cops from the highway. They searched the building with K9 units. They found the sleeping bag, the photos, and realized he had created a sort of nest up in the ventilation shafts, but they didn't find the man. He had vanished into the night, likely slipping out a loading dock door before they arrived. The police told me he was probably a transient with mental health issues, but the photos were methodical. He knew my schedule. He knew my car. I quit that job immediately. But sometimes, when I'm walking to my car at night, or when I'm in a quiet room, I think I hear that whistling. And I wonder if he's still up there somewhere, watching, waiting for the perfect shot. These experiences taught me one thing. We rely on locks, cameras, and fences to feel safe. But the truth is, if someone wants to get to you, if someone wants to watch you, a lock is just a minor inconvenience. Stay safe out there, and if you work the night shift, don't look up into the rafters. You might not like what you see staring back. Thanks for watching, Sharo Shadows. If you have a story from the night shift that you want to share, let me know in the comments. And remember, sometimes the things you see in the corner of your eye are actually there. Sweet dreams.